I don't know, yeah, very short. I don't know how you all do this. It's nerve-wracking facing a room of experts and clever people talking. 4 slides very quickly. I was asked to start a festival by Puan Maimuna. Actually, I'm very grateful to her because when in 2008 we had the UNESCO listing, we had sort of a day celebration. I was given 8 days to do a show. Then by the time we switched to 2010, we had 6 weeks and there were 3 groups that were proposing, and she pulled me aside. Actually, she probably doesn't remember this. She pulled me aside and said, can you please do it? Because nobody else wants to do it. And I thought, okay, we have a series of events, so let's do it. My background is I read Town and Country Planning. I run a factory producing textile chemicals, so what do I know about the arts? I don't. And in the last 2 years, having faced, being invited to sort of like Yokohama and Taipei and Seoul, asking to talk about a festival that I'm learning to do, it's really, really nerve-wracking. So I don't know how you all do it. So Georgetown Festival started 2010. So I did a bit of homework, what was around the region, what's happening in the region. We have Singapore that's 37, 38 years old. We have Hong Kong, we have Melbourne. How are we ever going to compete? So I decided that we were not going to compete. We're going to create something of our own individual brand, which is Georgetown. And so until today, people ask me, what is your theme for the festival? And I said, I'm not clever enough to think of a theme. I do something that celebrates Georgetown. So it's always about the space, the people, the history. So the first 5 years, I decided that I was going to go to branding the festival. In fact, the second year, first year we started with no contract. We just did it. Second year, when I asked the Chief Minister, can I have an agreement to say that, okay, we're going to do this, for how much and all that. And he says, you don't trust the Chief Minister? I said, what if you die or I die? What was going to happen to this journey that we're doing? So we had our first agreement in 2011. So we started with very little money. We had 6 weeks to plan. And basically, it started off with a series of events. So it became a festival. Next slide. 3 things that come to my mind. The questions were asked, what is your opinion that makes Penang Island a world city? We were cosmopolitan since 1700. So we didn't really, we were known already. So as a regional, international city. People came, people traded. We were very rich in culture. And then in the 70s, the big industries came. So again, we had a renewed life. We were always reinventing ourselves. We're better than Madonna, you know. We're always looking out at what do we do next? And in 2008, when the UNESCO listing came, we had to look at, okay, what do we sell now? Where do we move? It's sold last season's Prada jacket. So what is 2016 out there? Next. What was the next question? What, in your opinion, is required to make Penang a world city? The words that always inspire me is manage, inspire, change, adapt, history, spaces, and people. This is how I work the festival. These are the key words that I work with, like what is important. And I think everybody touched on this, about we are a new city. It's 2016 out there. It belongs to a new generation. But how do we not change? You know, although we are a UNESCO city, we must be ready for change, or adapt, or work with spaces and people and manage it really well. Although I work in a festival, I am terrified about what's happening now in Georgetown. When I see that it's unbridled, uncontrolled tourism, it's a bad word to me, you know. I feel terrified. I just hope the authorities realize this, that, hey, it's not about the numbers. We are a very, very fragile city. The spaces are small. We don't want theme parks in our island. Butterworth has got Greenland. So we have to be very careful what we put on our island. And I think what's really special about Penang, which I want to share with all of you, is that the people here take ownership of the island. You cannot tell anyone that you're going to build this or pull a tree there and do this and do that. This is something that I really love about Penang. The people of Penang take full ownership of the space. The people of Penang know about their space. The people of Penang will tell you what they don't want, and they're very, very vocal. So my 8 minutes, okay. The other great thing that I feel about my journey is I've been very, very lucky in the last 2 years. I've been invited, for a young festival that's 5 years old, I've been invited to a lot of places to talk and share. Although I'm terrified of talking, I work better in small groups, so I'm waiting for that little small group. I was invited by ASEAN to attend a little conference in Cebu, Philippines. they wanted to talk about what is the failure of ASEAN. I think somebody touched on this earlier. Why ASEAN has failed is because they've always been government linked. It's all about selling individual government economic policies. It has never worked. So I just presented, like I said, look, we really need to have the people feeling that it's ASEAN and not governments cutting ribbons. And I think Neil pointed this out. A lot of what happens in Malaysia is we just love events. We love taking pictures and saying that we did this and 18,000 people come and we don't know why we're doing it or why we did it. Like when I asked the CM, why are we doing the festival? I think he couldn't answer me because it was 2010, the government is newly formed, we didn't have a roadmap, we didn't have a strategy, we don't have plans, we don't know where we're going with the arts. And I think even Malaysia hasn't got a very strategic plans of the arts. So how can you expect a state like Penang to know what are we going to do with the arts? Everybody talks about Penang being a cultural hub. What cultural hub? You know, I don't see it, and I should be the first person to recognize it. I think we really need help from all of you, and something I'll share with you all. We are very shy local people. We don't talk publicly. We dare not ask questions. That's why I think Stuart was saying, all of us, look at all of us at the back there, come to the front, come and speak to all these people. But it's very nerve-wracking because you all are the great experts of the world. We are still in the learning process. So I think really these little breakout sessions that you'll have later, and Richard uses this word called a humanist approach. I like that because as a person, I am not an expert. I don't know how to run a festival. I'm enjoying the journey. I'm learning. So meeting people like yourselves, be kind to us, teach us nicely, share with us, and really, because we really don't know, and it's like Jesus said, forgive them, Lord, for they do not know. We're learning, and I think we're interested to learn. I think I finished my 8 minutes. Thank you.
Joe, what are you talking about? You're a great speaker.
Could I make a comment to your comment about not being an expert? I think I speak on behalf of all of us experts that, I mean, every person that we've met or that we've seen speaking today on Penang, the one thing that's very clear is that you're experts on Penang. And that's what this is all actually about, right? I mean, we wouldn't be here if we weren't, here to talk about Penang. So, it's one hand clapping as far as I'm concerned if we're not going to have this conversation with the leaders of Penang. So. Yeah, so be kind to us. I mean, we're learning. I mean, and that's a great point because, a lot of the things that we're saying about, our experience and how we've seen this and that, I mean, it has to still, at the end of the day, for this to be a meaningful workshop, it needs to translate to the Penang situation. And the reality, I mean, one reality, for example, that I observed is how, and I think, the CM mentioned this today, is that, Penang in many ways is like a state under siege. That you're operating under very limited resources, and you're trying to do something and leading the way, in the country with very limited resources around some very interesting concepts that I think speak very strongly to a lot of us, like sustainability, good governance, and so forth. And I mean, I think you should give you guys selves a lot of kudos for even trying, because I mean, that's a lot of courage.
Okay, thank you. Something in my nervousness I forgot to mention. That, ASEAN, the secretariat, the guy who runs art information, is very keen on us to work on an ASEAN program. And I shared with him, because every time I get invited to like Japan or China or Korea, Taipei, as a collective, we are really small, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Philippines. So, but as a collective of 600 million people, we can then go to Taipei or Korea, Seoul, or Tokyo, and then stand with you all in your great spaces and all that. So I really feel it helped us get there. Thank you. Pan-Asia. Yeah, Pan-Asia. And we also have something that Neil, Think City started called Creative Cities Southeast Asia. And the ASEAN Secretariat, although based out of Jakarta, this Vietnamese guy is really, really pro individuals and agencies working together to form a second strong layer that support the government initiative for ASEAN.
Actually, there are two words. The word is secondary cities. There's something amazing happening in secondary cities because there's so much room to grow, so much to do. the capitals are usually spoiled.
Let's go Georgetown, Penang.
Yes. Great. Thank you, Joe.